It's time for Cats Talk Wednesday. Small town and big city joined forces. Vinny Hardy of Lynch, Kentucky, and Terry Brown of Louisville, Kentucky, team up to give you free-flowing, laid-back sports talk. Focus on Kentucky Wildcats, as well as pertinent information in the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Cats Talk Wednesday. Vinny Hardy here. Terry TB Brown is on the way. We got a big, fun show like we try to do each and every week, coming to you courtesy of the BS3 Network, BS3 Sports. Big weekend for the network. We'll get into that. Big weekend for TB and myself going back to Kentucky. We talked about it last week. A little bit, the episode with Renee Washington on. If y'all hadn't checked that out, go back and check it out on YouTube or Roku. Or listen on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. Rate, subscribe, review, all that good stuff where you can get the podcast each and every week. Go to BS3 TV Live and watch episodes. Got episodes on demand. Got about 10 there in the rotation. So if you missed some or want to go back and rewatch some, you're able to do so. We definitely appreciate it. We also have a guest as well as talking about the network weekend, the Cats Talk Wednesday weekend. Gabrielle Starr is going to be joining us. She's a reporter for the Boston Herald, covers the Red Sox, and she's well versed in all the other sports as well, just like Renee Washington was last week. Be able to talk Red Sox, Celtics, Patriots, NBA, NFL. She's all over it. She's doing her thing up there in the Northeast. So we'll have Gabrielle on here in just a little bit. Got TB coming on here in just a little bit, like we said. So as we mentioned, we both were in Lexington. We weren't able to be there at the same day, the same time up there at Comedy Off Broadway. We got to see the homie Rob Wood Jr., who was back in Lexington last weekend, doing a couple shows on Friday and a couple on Saturday. So we'll recap all of that. Because I was at the first show on Friday. TB was there on Saturday. Friend of the show, I remember the episode, Charles Moore, who was the up-and-coming comedian as well. He was there in Lexington. I missed him too. So look, a lot of folks was in Lexington at the same time, but everybody was kind of moving and shaking and missing each other, even though we was all there for the same thing. But somewhere Charles was there. Got to post up and chop it up with Roy, just like TB and I did. So fun time was had by all, and we'll get into that before the show's over with. Fall camp is wrapping up for Kentucky football. Today is August 23rd, so that means we are about 10 days away from the kickoff football time in the Bluegrass. The Cats will be taking on Ball State, so the time now to get ready to start hitting other people, seeing different colored jerseys. The grind, fall camp is over. The somewhat monotony of it is over. The good thing is the Cats got through it without, a killer injury. We've seen that in the past where, the death takes a blow in camp. Don't even get to the season at full strength, and that's part of it. That kind of thing happens. We saw it with Landon Young. We've seen it in the past, and so from that standpoint, they were able to get through the season and be healthy, not sustain any injuries before getting to week one. So that is great. Vince Merrill the other day talking to the media, because the offensive coaches and players that alternate, so the offense talked, I think yesterday, and the defense will talk tomorrow, but Coach Merrill basically said, look, man, I got a problem. It's a good problem to have because the tight end room is loaded as far as trying to get all the guys playing time. Laurie Anderson, Brendan Bates, Jordan Dingle, Josh Caddis, Isaiah Cummings is, just dude after dude after dude. And, nationally, might be under the radar, even in the SEC, not going to get as much love. Look, Brock Bowers, dude from Georgia, everybody's going to be talking about him. He's a monster. But collectively, talent-wise, Kentucky's tight end room, they're not going to take a back seat to anybody. And they're definitely anxious to show that. Larry is a guy who will probably do more work with the intermediate type stuff. His accuracy is unmatched. You've been hearing guys rave about that in practice. Brennan Bates is wanting to show that he's more than just a blocking tight end. So these guys are loaded, and the depth there is one of the deeper positions on the team. And like Liam Cohen said, can be used to kind of offset maybe areas where they're not as deep as they want to be or had hoped to be at receiver. We know Dane Key and Barry Brown, Tavian Robinson should be on paper, if it plays out on the field, a formidable big three. But then maybe it drops off a little bit as far as experience and getting guys reps and things of that nature. So what you lack in maybe receiver depth, tight end, plethora of guys can kind of overshadow that, can kind of compensate for what you're lacking or appear to be lacking when it comes to the wide receivers. So we'll find out very, very soon. Before we know it, it'll be Kentucky and Ball State kicking off at Kroger Field. Got a few games this weekend. Not the full slate, but look, at this point, this happens every year. Everybody's just dying to see some football. High school's already started. You got the NFL preseason, and it's whetting your appetite. But now you get to see some college games that count with the week 0 in Notre Dame and Navy. I think Vanderbilt and Hawaii, San Jose State, USC. It's not a killer slate of games, but it's college football, and this will be, last weekend was the last weekend without college football now, because we'll have it from now on until, the national championship kicks off in 2024. So the wait is over. The withdrawal symptoms everybody's been dealing with are finally going to be, appeased, and we'll have football here. Fall sports will be kicking off. Everything will be going. It always goes from not much of nothing in the summer to a whole lot of everything in the fall. That's the way it always works out. But got a good show. Got Gabrielle Starr hopping on here in a little bit. It's going to be fun talking with her. TB is on the way. So like I always say, y'all won't be stuck hearing me just drone on and on and on. We'll have some interaction, have some dialogue, some trialogue, if you want to call it that. But we'll take a quick little break, show you a little promos, other shows that you can listen to and view on the BS3 network. The award shows this past weekend, we talked about that last week. Trying to get some votes from our following, and we got nominated for some things. We're grateful for all that. We'll talk about that as well. We get TB on here. But just a quick little promo for the forecast right now. We're on Cast Talk Wednesday on the BS3 network. A wonderful show that you can check out as you peruse the BS3 network and their great umbrella of podcasts, a variety of topics and shows that you can find that interest you, in addition to us doing UK sports each and every week.
There's a 100% chance of a laugh thunderstorm. 4 men with different viewpoints take a movie, show, or documentary and review it uncensored, unfiltered, uncompromised, with no holds barred. Join BS3, Wilkes, King Dog, and H-Rap B as they take on Hollywood their own way. BS3 Network proudly presents The Forecast, where H-Rap B always predicts,
if I owe you something, I ain't got it. And if you need it, get it from God.
Live live every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure.
So the forecast is a wonderful show that you can watch. I'm not a movie guy. Everybody knows that. Y'all longtime listeners know that Terry has made fun of me multiple times about all the movies I haven't seen or how long it's taken me to watch a movie that pretty much everybody has seen or should have seen. I'm not a big movie guy, so a lot of movies on the forecast I'm like probably haven't seen. TV's been on there reviewing stuff, reviewing documentaries. I think I've been a guest on there with Ben and H Rap and Doc and all those guys, but I'm not the dude you want for that. And everybody makes fun of me and clowns me. I remember Sierra Newton was on here from BBN Tonight, and clowning me on whatever movie it was that I hadn't seen. And when I have seen it, is the record player stops. Everybody's like, it's that shock. People faking heart attacks because, oh, wow, you really seen that? Wow, really? But yeah, so sometimes I do catch a movie from time to time, and it will shock everybody. Um, a little tweet from Kentucky Track a little bit ago. A friend of the show, Kenny Harrison, won the semifinal heat in 12.33 seconds. Our volunteer coach, uh, Devon Charlton, took the final automatic qualifier. So they are on to the finals. In the hurdles, we had Kenny Harrison back on when she was still at UK. She's went on to do big things as a professional. So congratulations to Kenny for doing her thing, continuing to represent, continuing to have a great career as a professional, continuing to represent the blue and white of UK, representing BBN. So congrats to Kenny Harrison on advancing to the final in her event. So good stuff there as well. We are waiting our guest, Gabrielle Starr. She's about to hop on into the green room, and we will chop it up with her. We'll get TBN to talk with her as well. Um, Coming to us from Boston. Looking forward to talking some Red Sox with her, some baseball, some MLB, um, all types of stuff. Interesting topics. We'll make sure the settings are good to where she's able to hop on. Let's see here. Do that again. Yeah, I think we are good to go to have Gabrielle on here. Let's see, authenticate. No. Yeah, we'll get her on right now, and we'll have a fun conversation. So we'll also talk with TB2 about Mark Stoops. Uh, Talking that talk a little bit. Um, had the kickoff luncheon in Louisville at Churchill Downs, and that happens every year. You go out and talk to some donors and some boosters and some alum, and you know, it's a little revenue deal. And, you pay your ticket and get in and get access. Get to have a little Q&A session with the coach. Show some highlights, some video clips, and once again, it's just one of the little annual traditions. No doubt, coaches across the country are doing similar types of things, but Coach Stoops does it in Louisville. Plenty of UK fans in Louisville, as always. But the Governor's Cup was there, and everybody knows that. Well, if you don't know, Kentucky and Louisville play for the Governor's Cup on rivalry weekend. Um, you know, got the Civil War with Oregon State. Everybody playing for something, regionally. But for Kentucky and Louisville, it's the Governor's Cup. And Kentucky has had the upper hand in the series for quite some time. And um, the Governor's Cup was there at the event, and Coach Stoops says that he was surprised to see it in Jefferson County because it hasn't been up there in a while because Louisville hadn't won in a while. So cool to see Stoops talking that talk. And we got Gabrielle having a little trouble with her mic, so let's see if we can get that. I think she's getting her Chrome situation updated. But it was cool to see Stoops go ahead and say a little something because look, we've seen him around for a long time. He's been here over a decade. He kind of maybe doesn't let his hair all the way down with the media. He kind of stays a little more reserved. There's moments where he has some fun interactions, some fun back and forth, especially with those who come on a regular basis. You know, Lonnie Demery comes to mind. He jokes with Lonnie a lot, as well as others. But, you know, it's for the most part, he's just kind of, you know, does what he has to do. So he's not very talkative at all, but sometimes he is more forthcoming. But this particular time, he kind of let that little shot out because Louisville is trying to refocus on the rivalry, and you know, Jeff Brown was over there, and they're going to be better, and they want to keep the rivalry from being as one-sided as it is with Kentucky and Louisville. So it was cool to see Stoops go ahead and take a little shot. It was fun in games. It was harmless. Louisville fans got bent out of shape about it. But, hey, that's what happens in a rivalry. If they had won 5 or 6 in a row in the series and, you know, the Governor's Cup was still there for Jeff Brown's meeting with the media, he'd say, well, you know, this thing hasn't been in Fayette County in a long time because Kentucky hadn't won in a while. Same thing. That's all Stoops was doing. Our guest is in the green room right now. She is a reporter for the Boston Herald. She also founded Girl at the Game. She is well versed in all things Red Sox, MLB, NBA. She got it all covered. We got Gabrielle Starr making her first appearance on here with us. Gabrielle, welcome. Sorry about the little hiccup getting in, but proud to have you and glad you're here with us.
Don't apologize. That was me because my computer never wants me to be able to log into any kind of video call on time, ever.
For a few weeks ago, I guess it might have been opening day or around the All-Star break, we had Sarah Sanchez on, who blogs for Bleed Cubby Blue. And
I love her.
She is amazing. And she was having trouble getting in, and she was telling me it was something that I had to do in settings to allow the guest in. I didn't even know what it was. And she's like, if you do this and this and this, it'll let me in. I was like, oh, thank you so much, because I had no idea.
No, this was definitely me. This was not you at all. It just decided that I had suddenly revoked the permission for Chrome to let me have any audio or video. And I have no idea why. So
who knows? Technology for us all. So are you like the Sox have an off day today? Are you able to catch your breath because you were just grinding?
No, I have an off day today. They do not.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, good for you. Good for you.
Well, I'll be working all weekend, so.
I understand. As far as them, like you said, working their way back into, you know, the playoff mix and kind of exceeding expectations and in the toughest division in baseball. Because like if they were in the AL Central, they'd be, you know, cruising right now.
Yeah.
But what's the vibe? What's the mindset as far as you, the fan base? Is everybody thinking that they can finish this hard schedule and make it, or what?
You know, if you asked me 2 days ago, I would have been like, yeah, they just swept the Yankees for the second time this season. They're crushing it. But this week in Houston, they are not having a good week. They've left like 21 men on base over the first 2 games of this series. And before September 1st, they're in a stretch of 10 games against the Astros and the Dodgers. They've got 4 in Houston, 3 at Fenway hosting the Dodgers, and then 3 at Fenway hosting the Astros. And that's how the rest of their August wraps up. And to me, that feels like a make or break stretch for them where they've been pretty good against teams over 500 throughout the season. Like, that's been the kind of weird thing that, they'll lose 2 out of 3 to the Oakland A's and they'll lose 2 out of 3 to the Washington Nationals, but then they're like dominating the Rangers, or 8-1 against the Yankees. Not that the Yankees are good now, but earlier in the season, it was a tougher kind of situation. They swept the Blue Jays. They swept the Blue Jays in 4 games in May at Fenway. They hadn't done that in like 30 years. So you kind of look at that and you're like, well, if they could just get into the playoffs, they're already holding their own against these teams that will be in there. But now they're not really doing that either. They've had 2 very, very bad games against Houston, and they just like can't figure out how to plate runs. It's not like they're not getting the opportunities. They were 3 for 18 with runners in scoring position on Monday night. And the biggest hit they had was in the first inning when Duvall had a 3-run homer. And after that, it was like, I think they scored 1 run the entire rest of the game. Last night, they didn't score a run till the 8th inning, a Duvall solo homer. They lost 7-3. They just aren't consistent enough offensively. And the defense has been a mess all season. They lead MLB with like 90 something errors. I think 90 errors. And no other American League team had more than 80 last I checked yesterday. So it's just not a clean enough product on a consistent basis, which is a frustrating thing to see because cultivating consistency has been Chaim Bloom's mantra since he took over, with, a farm system that's consistently churning out prospects, a team that's consistently competitive, players that are consistent in what they do. And so far, none of that is materialized. And we are now, this is the 4th season of his tenure here. I would say the farm system is the best thing that he's done so far, because that is now churning out good talent. They're number 5, according to Baseball America. And obviously that's the kind of thing that it takes time to get to a point where you can be consistent. But, at this point in the season, it's like, you can't be doing the things you're doing and then still say, well, we just have to play better. Because at the end of the day, it's August 23rd. You're not playing better. You're in some ways playing worse than you were playing a month ago. So I don't know.
Because leaving a bunch of runners on and leading the league in errors, that's a bad combination.
They made as many errors last night as they plated runs. They had 3 errors last night. They scored 3 runs. I don't know what to say about that. You can't do that. You can, you just can't do it and think you're going to go to the playoffs.
Exactly. You can't win consistently playing like that, for sure. Are you from Boston originally? Wow.
I'm a 3rd-gen Red Sox person, I guess. I can't call myself a fan nowadays, but I grew up a Red Sox fan, and my dad's side have been Red Sox fans. I don't know about my great-grandparents, but I know at least 3 generations of Sox fans. So yeah, it's a lot of my life has been very blessed by this team. But it's also frustrating to watch them make things harder for themselves. Because that these guys work hard. Every MLB team's working hard. They're all out there. They're taking batting practice. They're doing their PFPs. It's not like they're not putting in the work, but that almost makes it more frustrating, because then you're like, it's like we watch you study, we watch you do your homework, but then you're showing up to the test and you're failing. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, well, what's missing here? What is the disconnect between the practice and making perfect, basically. And with them, it's more just like that they're feast or famine. They'll go through these stretches where the offense is just on an absolute tear. Then they'll go through a stretch where like the offense is missing in action. And you're like, well, how is the same guy that, had 10 home runs over 30 games since the All-Star break, like, how is he now, hitless in 7 games? There's no actual player that's in that current situation. I'm just thinking of something extreme. Though Tristan Casas has homered like 11 times since the All-Star break. So it's just there's a matter of consistency, and it feels like, the way that you build a winning team is you have it so that the players are picking each other up, right? So if like one guy is struggling, somebody else is picking up. Like in the 2018 ALCS, Mookie Betts was not having a good postseason. Jackie Bradley Jr. is the guy that stepped up in that ALCS. They don't go to the World Series without Jackie Bradley Jr. because he has 10 RBI and they're all on 2-out extra base hits, including that grand slam. Mookie Betts didn't hit his first career postseason home run until the World Series, and it was the last game of that World Series. And he'd already been in 2 postseasons before that, though they were very brief. So, you have to have a team where, if Justin Turner can't play because he's still dealing with his heel injury, somebody else is coming in and coming through with that big hit. And, if Adam Duvall is out, it has to be Jarren Duran or vice versa. And at certain points in the season, you have seen that. You have seen this team be that kind of team where everyone's coming through in a different day. It's not like you got a David Ortiz where the guy's got 40 home runs and he's just always the guy. Mm-hmm. Devers has been more like that lately, but he was kind of hot and cold at the beginning. So it's like, if you don't have that big bat that 9 times out of 10 is the guy, then you got to have a team where it can't be one guy can't hit and all of a sudden no one's hitting. Because like last night, if they don't have Justin Turner in the lineup last night, they are losing 7-1. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, but then, book your vacation for October 3rd.
Yeah.
2nd.
Yeah. So you said that this team, as head scratching as they have been, swept Toronto in May in a 4-game series at Fenway. And that's for the first time that's happened in like 30 years. You're telling me like the 04 team, the 07 team.
Well, not a 4-game sweep. Yeah. So 4 games. I mean, it's very specific, but 4-game sweep at Fenway.
Right.
I guess we should bear in mind that like there used to not be, I mean, it's not like 4-game series are as common as like a 3-game series. So that's obviously part of it. But yeah, I mean, the American League teams always.
The title teams didn't even do that in the peak.
This is pre-Pedro Martinez. We're talking like, this is like Roger Clemens era Red Sox. Wade Boggs still playing on other teams' Red Sox that were pulling this off, which is kind of funny because it shows you how random baseball and baseball stats can be. That like, that's a really impressive stat. That's really fun. It was crazy when it happened in May. And then again, it's like, all right, cool. But in like 1992 or whatever, when that happened, they were already 70 plus years into the curse of the Bambino, and they weren't going to reverse it for another 12 years. So like, great, cool. You swept the Blue Jays in 4 games. You still finished the season with nothing to show for it for the 75th year in a row or whatever it is. And then, you got a team like the 2021 Red Sox, and they come into the season, they're projected to win 79 games. They go to the ALCS and they're 1 game away from the World Series in the year that everyone predicted that they were going to be last place again. So, I mean, that's the good and bad thing about this game. It's anyone's game. Anything can happen.
That's it. Our co-host Terry Brown is backstage. We'll bring him in as well and keep it going. Welcome in, TV.
Man, the real world, real jobs, they stink, man. I got things to do. I got to talk sports, man. Man, trying to keep me down, but good to be here. Good to see you, Vinny. Good to see you, Gabrielle. Thank you for joining us.
It is my pleasure, Terry. This is like the coolest thing because you and I have been Twitter friends for
a long time.
Years. So
yeah.
I'm so honored that you guys invited me.
Yeah, and I like the baseball.
Yeah.
I sometimes like the baseball.
You followed our little show account a long time ago, and I was like, wow, that was nice of her. So we followed back, and then
gotta support.
I thought, let's try to get her on, and talking a little bit about some Red Sox TV, but as you know, Gabrielle is well versed in everything, so we'll get to some NBA a little bit, and
God.
and all that.
The well versed is going to go out the window real quick. I'm an eye
so
test girl for the NBA.
I see you tweeting about the Celtics and Joe Mazzulla, and we got to get your thoughts on how new that roster is going to look when they play again. So, but yeah, TB, that's just let you know we've been talking about the Red Sox are just making everybody up there pull their hair out. That's basically what we've been talking about.
Well, they've had a pretty good run the last 20 years up there in the Northeast between the Celtics and the Patriots and the Red Sox and the Bruins, and they're okay.
Look, you won't hear any complaining from me. In 2019, I got a lot of crap from Red Sox fans because I was like, you know what? This fan base needs some perspective. I'm like, you just finished a winning season. You won your 4th World Series in the last 20 years. In this century, you got more World Series than any other team, to say nothing of the other teams in this region. And you're whining because you didn't make the postseason because injuries happen and shit happens. Like, are you kidding me? The last time the Cleveland team won a World Series, my grandmother was in high school. Like, I don't have any patience for people in Boston who whine about this stuff. Like, you can be mad about certain things the Red Sox do. You can be mad about the way that they're playing. You can be mad if you don't think that they're trying to build a contending roster every year. But at the end of the day, if the only thing you're mad about is that they're not going to another World Series, like, get in the fucking line. There are teams that have never won a World Series. There are teams that haven't won a World Series in my parents' lifetime. There are people who have waited so many years to see a Red Sox, to see their team World Series. And I'm like, we got ours. Boston got ours, and then some, and then some, and then some. Like, yeah, it'd be nice. Sure, cool. I mean, also now I'm like, I want to go on vacation in October because I need a break because I'm tired. But like, at a certain point, you sound like the Yankees. You sound like Yankees fans. And no Red Sox fan wants to sound like a Yankees fan. You got 9 championships. Only 2 other teams in MLB have more than that. And that's the Cardinals. And you don't hear their fans bitching and moaning. And then the Yankees. And their fans are always bitching and moaning. So, like, who do you want to be? You want to be classy or you want to be whiny babies? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I have no patience for it. I'm so sick of it. I get emails in my inbox, my work inbox, from readers being like, this is unacceptable. I'm like, they exceed the luxury tax more than almost any other team over the last 20 years. They have more championships. They've gone to the postseason like as much, if not more, than any other team, basically. They're in the hardest division. They have no control over injuries. I don't know what to tell you. A lot of these people are also people who were kids growing up before 2004. And I'm like, so you remember waiting decades. Like, my dad waited decades. My great uncle is 105. He was born in 1918. He was an infant when they won the World Series with Babe Ruth, and he literally waited 86 years. I'm like, there are people in my emails, because most of my emails are from grumpy 50-year-old guys who are trying to tell me what's what. And I'm like, dude, I know that you were a kid watching Carlton Fisk. You know what it was like to wait. You remember that feeling, and yet somehow you still feel entitled to more rings when somebody your age has never seen one, and their team's almost never in the postseason, let alone making the push to the ALCS, to the World Series. This team might not win a World Series every time they go, but for one thing, they win most of them. And for another thing, even if they're not, this team was in the ALCS 2 years ago.
Try to be a Brewers fan, or
what are you whining about? Are you kidding me?
Or try to be an Expos fan.
They deserve a team.
My heart still breaks with 94. It's that's why I get to watch baseball. I get to watch it from afar. I can't be. It's 162 games. That's a long time to be up and down on the emotional roller coaster, and the people that live and die with every pitch. I can't live like that.
That used to be me. That used to be me.
Yeah, but I can't live like that, man.
Well, you got kids. You got a wife.
I got enough
you got
stress.
a life.
That's right.
All these people that are like, and I know because I used to be one, and I look back now and I'm like, God, I was such an unhappy, like single, miserable little 20-year-old lonely college student who like was just like, so I was too focused on it. And now I'm like, God, I'm so happy when I can like read a book and have a night off and like not be losing my mind, because you know what? You end up with like the arteries of like an 80-year-old man who eats a cheeseburger for every single meal. Like you're killing yourself. And this team, I mean, if I could send them the bill for all the gray hair that like this team has put on my head in the last 2 years, I would. Like, it's not like they're not stressing me out. But like, that's the point. Like, you know that the team's going to stress you out, whether you're watching the game or you're watching it like with the microscope, the living and dying with every pitch. So if you know that, you gotta like protect yourself from it, you know?
The TV's daughters, have went to some events with him when he's got to cover games and things like that, and
Oh yeah.
some UK media like Anna Trullo and journalists have really hit it off his daughters. What sent you down the road to wanting to cover the Sox? You're a fan, you're a third generation fan, but what sent you down to the path where I want to not only root for this team, but then put on my media hat and start covering the team?
I mean, I had a class in college that was called The History of Boston. And I grew up hearing all these amazing stories from my family. I grew up right down the street from the ballpark. So like if there was a concert at Fenway, I would just open my bedroom window and I could kind of hear like the faint sounds. The first summer I was home from college, that's how I found out my mom knew all the words to I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys, because she came into my room and I was like listening to the concert because I couldn't afford to go to a concert. And she comes in and she's like, "You are my," and she's like doing like the whole little dance and everything. I was like, "Oh, okay, this is weird." But my dad has a PhD in history and writes and does stuff like that, and taught and teaches university and taught at my high school and taught adult education. And I grew up in like a house with a lot of reading and a lot of writing, because he's also a rabbi. So, sermons and stuff like that. And I just was a big reader growing up. And at bedtime, it was always, you can have like a Jewish story, like, Jewish, like Torah or Jewish history, whatever, or you can have like a baseball story. And I went to Jewish school. So like all day long, I was like, all right, I'm good. Like I got my, my Jewish stories already. And so instead I would ask for baseball stories, and we would play Stratomatic on the weekends and I would read. And then when I was in college, I took this class and we had to write a paper about like, you had to choose a significant like turning point moment in the history of like Boston or kind of the greater Boston area. And I basically I wrote about Fenway Park getting kind of saved in the early 1930s, because when Tom Yawkey bought the ballpark and the team in the early 30s, in the Depression, Fenway Park was like kind of burned. Like there'd been a fire and the like previous owner just like couldn't really afford to. It was like very messy. And so Tom Yawkey is like, well, I don't care if there's a depression. I'm a young multimillionaire from the South. So he spent all this money to rebuild it. And then like, just as they were about to be done, I guess there was another fire and they had to do like a whole nother reno. So it was, but without him at that time in American history, there's no guarantee that the Red Sox, that they would have been able to save Fenway and, the implications for the region, whatever. So I wrote this paper. I get like an A+, like I got like an A and then like bonus, like extra credit, which like they hadn't really told us was even a thing. And the college professor like sent the 3-page papers by the students to the class that like anonymously, like he didn't tell whose paper was whose, but he just sent out the 3 papers that he thought were the best papers. And one of them was mine. And I kind of realized, I was like, oh, cool. So like, I like baseball. I like writing. Let's play around with this. And then when I was older, I was very fortunate to have a family friend from my synagogue who worked for the Red Sox and continues to be affiliated with the organization, gave me tickets to my first ever opening day. And I'd never been to one before. I was always in school. As big as my parents, as generous as my parents are about me being a Psycho fan growing up, I was not allowed to skip school for like anything. Couldn't go to World Series parades or anything. And so I went, and it was the first one without David Ortiz because he had just retired the year before. And to thank the guy, I sent him I emailed him like a kind of just like a little essay on like, what it was like to be at the first opening day without David Ortiz since 2002 and whatever. And he just wrote back, "You're a sports writer." And like 4 months later, I built the Girl at the Game website, and I was already doing some freelancing for a site that no longer exists. And that was kind of it. And I've done all these other sports related things along the way while having other industry full-time jobs before I was able to finally transition into this.
Yeah. So who's your all-time favorite Red Sox?
I mean, it's cliche to say Ortiz, right? But like Ortiz.
Okay. I just had to ask. I'm like, well, maybe it could be Pedroia, maybe Manny. I didn't know. I'm thinking.
Well, I can give you like that's like my kind of like obvious answer. My kind of like less obvious answer would be Johnny Pesky, because he was with the organization for like over 6 decades as like a player, on broadcasts, managing, coaching, like mentoring, all these different kinds of things. And he really just like, he's a guy that I feel like, as beloved as he is, his numbers retired on the wall and, all these kinds of things, as beloved as he is, I think he's still an underrated contributor to the history of this franchise. This is a guy who like was blamed for them losing the 1946 World Series. Like he was Bill Buckner before Bill Buckner. Like he was before Bucky Dent with the home run. Like it was Johnny Pesky getting blamed. Like this is the guy that is the reason that instead of them reversing the curse before it was even known as the curse in, less than 30 years, this is the guy that got blamed until the next guy came along to get blamed. And even then he stayed affiliated with this organization and, did not like, didn't let that, go away. And then in 2004, he's still affiliated working with the organization. And at the World Series, he, made the trip with the team and he was sitting in the stands in St. Louis. So he's watching the franchise that took a World Series from him all those decades ago. And like the same person that, that gave me those tickets was sitting with him. And he told me the story at Fenway Park one time, and I was sobbing in public hearing this. And I'm not going to tell it as good as he does, but basically they were sitting in the stands in like this area where, people who work for the Red Sox, they kind of like put a bunch of seats there. Right. And towards the late innings of Game 4, Dr. Charles Steinberg, the person who has, kind of mentored me, he was sitting with Johnny and he noticed that as the innings were going on, Johnny was getting more and more agitated because, it's like, it's Game 4. They just took 4 against the Yankees after being down 3 games. They've won the first 3 against St. Louis. And this is when things start to go wrong. In their postseason history, it's like, it's not like they were never making the postseason. It's like they would get to Game 7 and they would need 1 out and something would go wrong, right? Or, they would have a 14-game lead over the Yankees, and then the Yankees would come back and Bucky Dent would hit that home run. Like there was always something where you could never get comfortable. And I remember too that in 2018, Google had, the day before the last game, Google already, if you searched World Series, Google was already saying the Red Sox won the World Series. And I tweeted it, and Wade Boggs replied to me and was like, I saw this kind of shit in 1986. Like, being like, no, like, this is not over, right? So he's sitting with Johnny Pesky. This is a guy who's been with the organization through all of these last minute, horrible, heartbreaking upsets. And Johnny's just getting like agitated. He's anxious. He's like stressed. And this is an old man. So Dr. Charles is like, all right, like, I'm going to check it. He's like, Johnny, do you want to go downstairs? Like, do you want to watch in the clubhouse? Like this is a lot, you know? And the first time he asked him, Johnny said no. And then the second time he said, yeah. And as he stood up to go, all of these Cardinals people that were sitting in the stands gave him a round of applause. Mm. And I can't imagine what it's like to go from, I just can't imagine what it's like to go from being the villain, being the scapegoat for all those years, and still staying around for it and being involved with that organization. Like, Ted Williams wanted him to come work with him when he was the manager of the Senators. And Johnny Pesky stayed. Like, Johnny Pesky was here. He was like taking the crap here. Mm-hmm. Like, I couldn't handle that. Like, could you handle people coming up to you on the street and being like, you let Eno Slaughter take the 1946 World Series, like, fuck you. Like I couldn't handle that, you know, for over a decade until somebody else messed up, right? And it was really nice that he got to be there in the clubhouse with the guys celebrating. He got a ring, and he was like washed clean. Like, his entire life changed in that night. It was like he was reborn. It was beautiful. So that's my guy. Yeah, wow. And then, of course, the 2012 Red Sox, only 4 guys went to his funeral, which is, of course, really respectful. So, you know, classic Boston mess.
So I didn't, you know, I went to a couple games. Me and my dad got to go on, you know, bucket list with the Fenway. You hear those names, you know, you see the Yawkey Way out there, you know, Pesky's Pole, but all of that you just shared, you know, we don't know.
Pole. That's his
pole.
Pole.
Yeah. And just to know that, you know, all that history and everything that he went through, you know, just a couple of that, it's unbelievable.
That story, like, every time, if I even think about it, I get like tears in my eyes. And that's not even the full, when they won that game and they won the World Series, every single player went up to him in the clubhouse and hugged him and said, "This is for you." So, like,
yeah, just try to make it right. That's amazing.
He's the guy.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
Oh, I shouldn't have told that story. It makes me a mess every single time.
Yeah, I didn't. If I led you that way, asking us, I apologize.
No. I chose to give my honest answer. So you know, and he deserves to have that story told, because so many of his teammates were not there. You know, he was one of the guys. It was him and Ted Williams and Bobby Doerr and Dom DiMaggio. They were the quartet. They were like the elite team of that era. And he and Bobby Doerr were the only ones left to see it. You know, Ted Williams didn't even live to see. I think he died the year that this ownership group took over. So he thought Fenway was going to get torn down when he was, you know, at the end of his life.
Was it 99 when the All-Star game was up there? They were like, he was on the cart then.
Yeah.
And, you know, Tony Gwynn and all those guys were, you know, showing him respect. And
I just wrote about that, actually, because I was writing about old timers games with the Yankees having Jeter going to theirs. I mean, they're not doing a game. They're doing like the day panels and whatever. But I can't believe Jeter, like, doesn't it make you feel old that we're like, Derek Jeter's an old timer day participant now? Like, are we really at that point? in life that
Derek
he's
Jeter's
considered
my
an old
age, so
timer.
yeah,
You should
that
at
makes me
least
feel old.
you should at least have to be 50 something before you even qualify to be considered for an old
Well,
time.
I'm like,
I
all
don't.
these teams have guys that were born in like 2003, 2004, 2005. I'm like, this is disrespectful.
Yes, it is.
And I'm a 90s kid. So like I know I just turned 30 like a few months ago. That's like still pretty young in the grand scheme of things if you are, God willing, lucky enough to live a long life. But like it is traumatic seeing a kid that like was not born when the Red Sox won in 04,
Right.
like making their MLB debut. I'm like, no, that I can't do it. It's not. I'm just gonna pretend it's not happening. Everyone was born in 1987, and that's it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Going back to the AL East, like if the Rays don't start 13-0, how serious is their fade right now? Because I think maybe y'all would already have leapfrogged them, whatever tense of English I'm supposed to use.
Yeah,
Y'all might already
leap. I think it's like leap and then frogged. Period.
leapfrog.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It all sounds weird. It's all frogs, right? Doesn't really matter either way.
Y'all could already be ahead of them had they not got off to that ridiculously fast start.
Yeah, I mean, but then there's the Blue Jays too, and I think, the Red Sox started the season with a couple key players that like weren't ready opening day. Paxton wasn't back the first month or so. Whitlock came back like a little bit late. Brian Bayo came back a little bit late. It's honestly, I feel like it's impressive that the Red Sox, even the last two games notwithstanding, like they have a winning record in August when I think most people were going to write them off by June. Like coming into the season, people were predicting this to be another 78 win season. And now, of course, if they are terrible the rest of the way, it could still be a 78 win season. But like it's August 23rd. They do have an above 500 record and they are not the last place team in their division. And I don't think anyone expected that to be the case by this point. Like I always think it's funny when people say, oh, well, like it's only April. Cool. So this game counts less than the other game. Like a win is a win, a loss is a loss. Like, yeah, maybe down the stretch, it's a tighter race and you'll wish you won more of those games in April, but that's kind of proven the point, right? Like you win more games in April, maybe you're not, claustrophobic in August and September. I don't know. I mean, the Red Sox lost on opening day this year. They lost by 1 run. But they trailed like 9-1 or 9-2 going into like the last couple innings. Like they came 1 run away from coming back. And I don't know. I think part of me is like, all right, cool. So you've shown us that you can be a better team than you've been this week, as in like literally over the weekend when you swept the Yankees in 3 games for the second time this season. Like everyone knows that you can be less sloppy. You can be better with runners in scoring position. Like because we've seen it, right? We're like over 100 games into the season. At the same time, it's like you're already doing better than most of the experts said that you were going to do. So like, it's kind of like, all right, it's, take what you can get at a certain point. If they were last year, it's like last year was worse because, they're doing all this over the luxury tax threshold and they had players that they could have traded to get under it. And then they would have come into the off season with like more prospects and no luxury tax. And like maybe this year they build a little bit more towards this year and they didn't do that. But it's also hindsight's 2020. Like, if we'd only done this in April, we'd be better than the Rays if the Rays hadn't done this. But like, there's nothing they can do about that, right? In 78, the Bucky Dent thing was 78 or whatever. When Bucky Dent hit that home run, like they came into September with like a 14-game lead on the Yankees for the pennant. And then all of a sudden they're playing a tiebreaker on the day after the last day of the season. Like everyone's either happy or mad either way. And I'm kind of like, I think next year is a year that they're like a legit force, because it's not just that the East is shaking out so differently than people thought it was. Like, people pick the Yankees every single year. I'm like, have you looked at the Yankees? Like, they got nothing going. Like, all right, keep picking them. But the Rays have had a lot of injuries that are like long-term recovery situations. So that's, even though they somehow managed to have a farm system with everything they could possibly need at every possible situation, like, that's still a huge blow for them. And the Wander Franco situation, whatever this is, doesn't seem good, seeing as they're taking stuff with his face down from the ballpark. Like, you can say, oh, he's just on administrative leave, and I'm not going to speculate at all on the actual situation, but from like a PR standpoint, if you're taking that stuff down, that sends an interesting message. And there's no way that they don't know that sends a message, because you have whole PR departments to talk to about this kind of stuff. So they know the optics of, pulling the poster down, and they still did it. So that's interesting. The Orioles are poised to be good to very good. They've got the #1 farm system. They're great right now. But if John Angelos doesn't spend, there's always going to be a team that can spend more. And I don't know. I think the Red Sox this offseason, they go into this offseason with a chance to come out of next year, like come out of the gate screaming, right? Because they've got the #5 farm system. Nobody needs that many top prospect infielders. There's too many. So you got trade chips. You got trade chips people actually want now, which has not been the case for most of the last 5 years. You got players people want, and we know that because people are have inquired about certain players. And you got financial flexibility, because everyone knows a team valued at $5 billion needs that financial flexibility. And you got Devers, you've got a young core. You got Devers, you got Casas, you got Duran, you got Masataka Yoshida, you got a healthy Trevor Story, you got Brian Bayo, you got Connor Wong. Like, you've got a core now. So this is the offseason where it's like, all right, you haven't wanted to go crazy. You haven't want to look desperate. Chaim Bloom said at the trade deadline, we're not going to make moves just to make moves. He said it like 30 times in the hour after the trade deadline. I'm like, all right, cool. So you didn't do that. But this offseason, it's not making moves just to make moves. It's making moves to make moves. And you can do it now. And the question is, are you going to do it? Because so far, the only crazy move he's made is trading Mookie Betts. And that was a very different kind of move. Now it's about how crazy Dave Dombrowski-esque are you willing to get with your farm system to build a winner? Because Dombrowski's like, I want Chris Sale. I want Craig Kimbrell. I'll do David Price, $200+ million free agent contract. Go ahead. Rick Porcello, come here. JD Martinez, great. Let's do it. Like, he's doing it. And he offered Mookie Betts a contract too. And he extended Eovaldi and he extended Sale. Like, that's a guy who, people can be upset about the farm system all they want. But for one thing, he built an amazing farm system in Detroit. He rebuilt that team. They were terrible before the early 2000s. He rebuilt them. He drafted Verlander, all these guys, Castellanos. He just took the Phillies from the longest NL postseason drought to the World Series in his first full season as their, GM or whatever he calls himself. So I'm very curious to see, is Chaim Bloom ready to be like, all right, I've got the prospects. Do you want them? Because so far he's turned down some deals, and he's had high asking prices for certain players. JD Martinez last summer, that was with the Mets, he wanted a lot for 2 months of JD Martinez, and Martinez wasn't even hitting homers like he usually does. So I'm like, all right, well, this season, this winter, is it were you stockpiling them for this big moment, or are you just stockpiling them? Because there's a difference, and you know, until recently, the Rays were one of those teams that just stockpiles. Now they suddenly spend, and of course, you know, look what happens. But that's my long-winded answer. I think this is kind of the put up or shut up off season for them, of like, if you finish this year with a winning record, even if you don't make the postseason, if you finish this year with a winning record and you've already improved your farm system rankings considerably, and that's without Casas, because he's not a prospect anymore. Masataka Yoshida, not a prospect, though I never really thought he was, but apparently technically prospect, rookie, whatever. Bayo's not a prospect. You know, all these guys are aged out, and your farm system is still improving by respected evaluators, you know, judgment. You got, you know, you're resetting the tax. What are you going to do now? Because if you win, if you're over 500 at the end of the year, you've improved. You have improved.
That's true.
So are you going to keep improving? Because that every year that Dave Dombrowski was here, they got closer and closer in the postseason. And every winter, when they didn't get all the way there, I'm saying every, like it wasn't like 3 years. But, you know, he comes in 2015. He immediately makes moves. 2016, they win the division. They get swept in the ALDS. He makes more moves, right? He adds Sale and Kimbrel. Next year, they go 1-3 in the ALDS, but they win the division again, and they're clearly closer, and they've got some injuries, whatever. And they have no David Ortiz, because apparently they just thought they didn't need to replace David Ortiz for a year. I mean, you don't have to, but then you're going to finish last in the American League in home runs. So, I mean, it's up to you. Next year, JD Martinez, 108 wins, World Series. You know, he saw what they needed every single winter, and he went out and got it. And like, people can complain about, you know, the mess later, but if you want the omelet, you got to break the eggs, right? And that's kind of the point, right? You're either developing your prospects to play them, or you're developing them to trade them. You're not developing them to hold them for as long as you can in the minors, just to say you have them, because there's no trophy for that. The only way you get a trophy for having a good farm system is if you use your farm system to build a World Series team. Otherwise, you don't get a trophy. That's
right. Well, Gabrielle, we have enjoyed it. Glad it finally worked out to have you on, and here you are on a night off and hopping on here and chopping it up with us and dropping knowledge. We definitely appreciate it. And
it is my pleasure. Sorry for the rambling.
No.
It's nice to actually talk baseball with people, because that's different than writing baseball by myself.
I understand that. Congrats on Girl at the Game, girlatthegame.com, your podcast, your website, and we'll have to do it again if you're free and want to hop on again.
Anytime. Gotta talk Cubs sometime, because they're very interesting.
Yeah, that's Terry's
and the White Sox.
A disaster.
Is it like what, 2 steps forward, 4 steps back? We're like, oh yeah, congrats, we finally changed our management. But we also brought back Tony La Russa. And that's like giving someone a present and then smacking them in the face with the present. You're like, here's your birthday gift. What?
And
why?
And are they leaving? There's talk that maybe they're going to Nashville, or what's really going on in Reinsdorf? And first of all, every owner lives to be 100 years old. He's going to live another 20 years, just like Jerry Jones and just like Al Davis. Right. He's going to be there for a while. He's 87. He's just getting started. So,
and to me, he's been 87 for like my entire life, and I'm 30. So it's kind of like how I always think Ron Gardenhire has been the same age for like my entire life. Like it's I don't know. Maybe it's just because these are people that I saw when I was a kid, so I just think of them that way. But you know what? I'm so sick of billionaires like holding their teams hostage if they don't get what they want from the place that houses them.
Yes.
Like Fisher with the A's, I'm like, dude, You could build 10 stadiums and you'd still be really rich. And if you just built one stadium, you'd make all that money back because you would be doing something for the fan base, which would then make more people actually want to be fans. Like, you don't think that a new ballpark in Oakland would make people want to come and see what a new ballpark looks like, since they haven't had one since the beginning of time? You don't think that people who thought that the team was sticking around would want to raise their kids to be Oakland fans? Because that's the thing. Like, if you're just threatening to uproot your team whenever you don't get your way, like pick up your marbles and walk away, you're all about the short term. You're all about inflating this bubble. And then you're going to get out before the bubble pops and you're going to saddle somebody else with it. And I mean, I find it really despicable, especially just because in the current world, any billionaire being like, oh my God, I can't afford the rent on this ballpark, so I guess I'm going to leave. Like, really? Really? You know how much sports writers make? No. Like, you know how much minor leaguers make? Well, you do, because you're underpaying them. Like, right. I just, it is, of all the people to be doing this stuff, it pisses me off to no end. And it makes me really sad, because these people don't seem to understand that the places where their teams live, like the places where the communities where these teams are, they're the lifeblood of their teams. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a fan base, eventually no TV station is going to want to put on your games. You're like, what do you need a ballpark for? You got no fans. You know, who's buying your concessions? Nobody. So all of your money, the root of all of it, the root of all your success is continuous consumption by the people. It should be at least a little bit more democratic than it is. And yet instead, these guys are marching around like tyrants or dictators, being like, if I don't get my way, I'm going to storm off. All right, cool. Have fun in the Vegas desert with like no consistent fans, because most people go to Vegas to visit, not to live. So you're not cultivating enough of a fan base. Mm-hmm. And I say that respectfully to the people of Las Vegas, because I know that many people do live there. But like, it's the same thing with Orlando. You know, Orlando would be good if you wanted to bundle it with Disney and have it be like, you know, one day at Disney World and one day at an Orlando baseball game. Cool. But like, Chicago is a passionate city full of people who've been there forever. And this is their team. This is an original American League team. You know, at least with the A's, it's like, we're already used to this. They were in Philly, they were in Kansas City, they were in Oakland. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying like, it's just, they move around a lot because they've already been uprooted. But like, you can't, I'm a purist. You can't keep uprooting these old teams. You know, if the Red Sox tried to even breathe the idea of moving somewhere out of the city of Boston, there would be like people with literal torches. It would be like Beauty and the Beast level mob scene outside Fenway Park. There would be people chaining themselves to the ballpark. There would be people picketing outside these front office people and ownership people's houses, like, as well they should. You know, like, you can buy this team, but you know what? The families that are multi-generational that have been there, they were there before you. And they'd be there after you. And they're there when it's good and they're there when it's bad. They're not just showing up to pick up the trophy and hoist it in the air as if they're the one that won it. They're the people that are sitting there in the last place finished seasons. And they're still paying and putting money in your pockets for a team that they loved before you even thought about placing a bid for them. So like, it just, the idea that Reinsdorf or Fisher or any of these guys would dare, like, it makes me so mad. And the last thing I'll say is, you know, Red Sox fans like to complain about a lot of things. They have some justified complaints, some very unjustified complaints. But the one thing that you have that people I don't think people give this ownership group credit for, is that they're the only ones that saved Fenway Park. The previous ownership group wanted to tear down Fenway Park. And pretty much any other bid would have probably done the same thing. And they came in and they not only said, we're going to keep this thing going, you know, for now. It's like 20 plus years down the road. They have spent over $1 billion not just keeping the ballpark standing, but actually upgrading it, expanding it, renovating it, making it cleaner, making it safer, making it more accessible, more seats. Yes, it's more expensive. There's lots of things, but like if you love Fenway Park, or even just you didn't want someone to just come in and put up some soulless mausoleum like Yankee Stadium, like that's a huge financial commitment for them to have made for decades, when they would have saved a lot of money by doing the easy thing and tearing it down and building something else. And they didn't do it. And I don't think that people recognize that as much as there are other problems with the way certain things have gone down over the years, like that is an impressive commitment to make, considering this is a lot about money for these guys. And the much savvier thing to do financially would be to say, sorry, we want a ballpark that can house more than 38,000 people. I mean, none of the Yankees games this weekend were sellouts. They were still at least 4,000 more people paying for attendance than you could fit in Fenway Park. So like the fact that they've stuck by that, I think deserves, at least for me, because I love Fenway. Some people think they should tear it down, but yeah. I think that people don't appreciate that enough. So anyway.
Well, we appreciate you coming on here.
Absolutely.
And spending time with us, for sure. And definitely love to have you back on.
Anytime, guys. Next time I'll talk less.
No, we enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. Thank you so much. First time on. Should have had you on way before now, but definitely glad that we made it happen this evening, Gabrielle.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope you have a good enjoy the rest of your night off. Gabrielle Starr, Boston Herald, girl at the game, girlatthegame.com. All things Red Sox, man. All over it. Definitely appreciate that. And been knowing her for a minute and finally got her to hop on here with us. So it was good stuff, man. So how you doing, man?
I went home this weekend, had a good time going home and seeing and doing. I hit all my food spots. I was able to do that, so that's always a good visit.
For sure. We wasn't able to coordinate it, but Cats Talk Wednesday was at Comedy Off Broadway for the whole weekend, man. We was back in Lex and got to see our homie Roy Wood Jr. Got to see him do his thing on the comedy stage and chop it up with him afterwards. Our friend of the show, Charles Moore, was there. I missed him and missed you, and we was all there at different times. And
I missed a bunch of people in Lexington, to be honest with you. So but it was good. It's the first time I'd been in Lexington in a while. But just had a great weekend back home. Saw a lot of people. Got to watch some outstanding field hockey.
There you go. Let me hear a little bit about that too, as I get my charger from my laptop. I'll let you talk about that. And I'm just gonna step right over here and get this so I can plug up. But back for Little Miss's game, right? So
her first varsity game. And it didn't hit me. I took my mom. It didn't hit me because we get there when they're warming up. And I'm like, oh, this is varsity. She's on the team, but she's not a starter. So I don't know how this is going to work. You know, was it be a shame if I came all this way. She doesn't even play. But she did. She came in the second quarter, played all the second quarter, half of the fourth, and they won 3-1. So that was good to see her play. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. Was that the first game of the season?
Yeah.
Oh man,
because JCPS had to cancel some days and things like that. So, but no, that was fun. And like I said, got to hang out and see people and visit and get some good eats. Got some indies. Got some sharks. Got some White Castle that we don't have here.
Really? No White Castle in the hour?
No White Castle, man. I'm like, make a killing. I'm like, what do y'all do when y'all want to eat something bad? You know, there's no Waffle Houses out here.
Oh Lord, I don't know if I could.
It tried to explain to the folks about the Waffle House, like, yeah. I know you see the videos of the people fighting, but Waffle House. Well, you plan to go? You don't plan to go to Waffle House. Waffle House is just where you end up.
This,
You do something else, and somebody else, you're out with some friends. And they say Waffle House, then you just go.
did Roy do a little bit about Waffle House on the show you went to?
Yes,
You drunk, we open.
right. Like, look, man.
They don't even advertise.
The best part is, look,
this game ain't brought to you by Waffle House because they don't sponsor nothing. They don't even have.
like, you could just sit down. You can tell them your order. That may be what you get, and it may not be. You just need to eat whatever the waitress brings to your table.
They're gonna be rude. It's all right. Just
yeah. If you looking for complimentary this and this, that's not for you.
Yeah.
That's not what they're about. And I'm okay with that.
Hey, it's it's on point, man. There might be a little fracas every now and then, depending on when you go and what time it is. If you're up there at 2 or 3 in the morning, something might pop off. But
that's right.
The waffle, the All Star. I've been on the last few times. I've been getting that grits bowl, man. That's
it's been a while since I've been. It's probably the same old stuff they've been serving. That's okay. I love Waffle House, but had a great time back in Louisville and visiting. Trying to see as many people as I can without going all over the place. But
sometimes you come in, you're incognito. Sometimes you come in and you try to see everybody. So you was trying to see folks this time around, right?
Well, yeah, because usually when I'm coming back, it's for something specific, graduation, Mother's Day, something like that. So it's I'm in and out, but I had some extra time, so I was just hanging loose and seeing some folks and doing some things and just good stuff, man.
Yeah. So it was fun, man. I hate we couldn't both hit at the same time. Like you said, Roy was fun. He was funny. The openers for him were good. The Will McIntyre was good. I told him, I was like, man, I wish you had a little more time. He was up there like 5. It didn't seem long at all.
No.
The Holly Lene from your city of Louisville, who was the middle act, she did her thing. She is a Cards fan. She said, I'm all right with Kentucky when they ain't playing Louisville. But we talked about that after her performance. She was funny. You and I like comedy. That's why we've had various different comedians on here. I'm not trying to speak for you, but we think we're funny. I don't know. We're not saying we can do what they do, but we like to try to think we can make folks laugh a little bit because we've talked about that before. She was interacting with a couple. You know how it's laid out there in Comedy Off Broadway. Right to her left, probably about 10 or 11 o'clock, first row, she starts talking with a husband and wife. And the husband was laughing. He was into it. He was responding. She was making her jokes about men, what kind of sandwich you like, and, ladies, the whole sandwich thing. This wife, I'll just say, if they're listening, it was Skip and Linda. Linda had no personality at all, sitting over there, straight face, barely chuckling, just not giving, the little back and forth or laughing, or you say something back when the comedian says something. And Linda wasn't doing that. I'm like, come on, Linda, play along. And that's what I said that to her afterwards, and she was like, yeah, she was kind of. And so, but she did good. She was funny, and got my Kate one of those "Let a Woman Lead You" shirts after it was over. So, yeah, it was.
It was fun. I took my man Jack. We went, and he took that great picture where it looks like Roy trying to talk to me after the show. I had my phone out, just the way he snapped. It looked like I'm the one that Roy trying to see after the show. But it was good stuff. And
of course, Mama B ain't gonna miss nothing. She definitely pointed that out. Like,
yeah, she said that shot looked like he's trying to get your autograph. I said, well, yeah, but he did a solid though, because he said, yeah, man, your man was through the night before, said he was coming through. I said, cool. and got the what's up. And as I'm walking away, he said, I'll come back on the show or something like that, and we'll hook it up or whatever he said. Now people looking like, okay. I'm like, it is what it is, man. I don't know what to tell you.
That's right. Afterwards, because I took my cousin with me, and my cousin's the one that actually sent me a prank call. The first prank call I ever heard, my cousin sent it. I didn't even know who this dude was, and I was like, man, that's pretty funny. And so, he's got them all on YouTube. You can go listen. Back when he was on the radio, before he even really made it big as comedian. So me and my cousin went, and then he came up and ain't gonna thank me for letting him come on. He's like, thanks for bringing me on, man. And I was like, man, thank you for coming. Because you do way more bigger stuff than us. You hooking, Bomani Jones and Miss Pat and this and that.
Yeah.
And you thanking us for having you on. I'm like, no, man, appreciate you for taking the time. But yeah, he was down to earth, humble. The comedy, it was just common sense, everyday.
It was good stuff.
Smart, logical, funny. It's just
Roy's got a good set.
Yeah. So I just enjoyed it, man. And glad we was both up there. Glad it was Lexington too. I saw him tweet out the tour at first, and it was Charlotte and it was Atlanta, and I was like, I'll probably run over to Charlotte because that's my little city anyway. I'm 3 hours from anywhere, and like going over to Charlotte. But when he redid it and saw Lexington on there, I was like, oh, gotta go and see him in Lexington. So.
Oh yeah. It just worked out that weekend. This was the weekend I was able to go home and take care of a bunch of stuff. So good stuff, man.
Absolutely. Oh, speaking of your whole city, man, they had Coach Stoops was over there in Louisville, and he with the luncheon at Churchill Downs. The kickoff deal with the alums and the boosters, and the Governor's Cup was there. he said, I'm surprised to see that thing in Jefferson County. So he let his hair down and took a little shot at the Cards, and I was here for it. I was here for
it. Man, this is what happens in the offseason. We have seen every coach and every rivalry do this in the offseason.
Yeah.
There's nothing groundbreaking to this. This is the time of year we got free shoes you. This is when, Steve Spurrier talked about you can't spell Citrus Bowl without UT. This is all that stuff, right? This is, was it last year? This is the time of year when, Texas A&M coach. I'm drawing an absolute blank.
Oh,
Jimbo threw stones at Alabama during this time of the year. Like, this is what it is, man.
Hawkins season, man.
And, I saw a bunch of Louisville fans. What is he, 5 years old? Bro, yeah, we know. Like, we know how this goes. But, yes, it has been 2,035 days since the University of Louisville beat the University of Kentucky in football.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to know how long ago that's been? Louisville beat Kentucky in November of 2017. That was the year I first came to Iowa, or that was the month I first came to Iowa to meet Kate. So since then, we went steady, got engaged, went viral, got married, moved, bought a house, all since Louisville was beating Kentucky. That's how long it's been. Our entire relationship has happened. We have not been together in a world where Kentucky has lost to Louisville in football. And it's a great mindset they've got, right? He's only beat because we had terrible coaches or whatever. I'm like, you had a Heisman Trophy winner during one of them L's. Like, what are we doing here? But, if Kentucky wins, this is year one for Brom, right? You got to give them some time.
Oh, yeah.
If they win, told you, it's a great con if you can get it, man. And, it's one of those things. I try not to rivalry as much as I used to. But in all of the 100+ years Kentucky's been playing Louisville and everything, hear them tell it, Kentucky's never beat them fair and square. It's always something. The coach, you know how the referees are. I mean, it's always something. It's never just a straight up, hey, Kentucky might have been the better team. And I've always said that, for a stretch there, the football was like, I thought pretty even, but Louisville always had one dude. One dude was Lamar Jackson. One dude was, that receiver they had, Devontae Parker.
Yeah.
They just had like one dude that was way better than everybody else. So I give Louisville their props when they beat Kentucky, but come on, man.
And if the shoe was on the other foot and Louisville had went 2,035 days without losing to Kentucky, Brom or whoever was the coach would, who knows when the next time this thing's going to be in Fayette County. It'd be something because that's just how this works.
Petrino called us a bunch of bleeping Smurfs running around that blue, and they ate that stuff up when they won 4 games in a row. Look, so, my thing is, it's rivalry season. When you win, you talk that talk. Here, Ferentz has talked about, the Minnesota, they play for that pig trophy. The pig's not going north of the border or whatever. Like that, look, some coaches do it better than others, but this is the season for talking.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, well, this is going to be bulletin board material for Brom. And my whole thing is, look, man, when it comes to rivalries, you shouldn't need bulletin board material.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it shouldn't matter.
That's it.
What should motivate Louisville this year is the 50 points they've been giving up the last couple of seasons. That should be your motivating factor.
Mm-hmm.
That you haven't beat Kentucky since 2017. That should motivate you.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what the coach says.
No.
And he didn't even say anything that bad. It's not like he was like, Cardinals, they the newest menu item on Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like, that's not what he said. He was like, oh, that's crazy. See that here?
Yeah.
Because it has been sitting in the Kentucky football facility for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for him, he don't even do that much, So I was glad he did, because he'll have his little back and forth with the media. Lonnie Demery, he'll make a joke with Lonnie or something like that, like I was saying earlier. But as far as just to really, he don't really let it rip like that. For the most part, he kind of keep it close to the vest. So I was glad he made his little jab and took his little shot. Because he normally doesn't do it, and I'm glad he did. The last time it was when Scott Satterfield was whining about the L's down, saying that they shouldn't do that, and Stoops said he's a good man, which was kind of like translation gave him a bless his heart. He said he's a good man. That was the only time he really kind of indulged in the rivalry that I can remember before yesterday.
Right. So I don't, whatever, man. I didn't think it was that egregious. But it's rivalry. It's trash talk. Nothing ends trash talk. I mean, nothing ends trash talk. Like you think that maybe you get a trump card. You would think it doesn't. I don't know if you saw the back and forth with some Duke recruit that was talking to Rasheed Wallace at some event, and Rasheed Wallace was like, who ended Coach K's career? And the Duke recruit was like, UNC didn't even make the tournament last year. Like, to me, the thing would be, we sent your Hall of Fame coach home the Final Four. You would think that's a trump card, but it isn't.
Yeah.
And that's what I was when North Carolina beat Duke, right? And everybody's like, oh, this is that trump card. I was like, it really isn't. You think beating your rival in the Final Four on the way to a championship would be a trump card, and it's not. The trash talk never stopped with Louisville, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. Even after beating them in the Final Four, even after beating the defending champions 2 years later, it just doesn't stop because there's always something. So there's never a trump card.
Yeah. Proof. Indiana, even after beating them in the Final Four.
Can we talk about Indiana?
You talk about 2,035 days and everything that's happened in your relationship. How many days have been since he hit that shot and they still act like it just happened? They act like he just not hit it.
Here's my thing about that. And I tweeted about it when that that tweet went around of some Indiana fan fest, and they had that Christian Watford reenact the Watt shot. And I mean, it's sad. First of all, Keith Smart's got to be like, if you're going to recreate a last second shot, I want a championship, right? Like you would think, right? And
baseline jumper halfway behind the backboard too.
And so anytime you do that, Indiana fans are like, oh, Kentucky fans so mad. I'm like, look, when it happened, it stung. Like, yes, that was unbelievable when it happened. But Indiana fan, that is not my memory of the 2011-2012 college basketball season.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of the point that we beat them in the tournament, which is one, if you ever watch that game, it's fantastic. The referees are like, we're going to let them play. And he's like, you're not going to score more points than us. I love that game.
Mm-hmm.
It was 100 to whatever it was. Like, y'all not going to outscore us. Yeah. I loved it. Like, we just going to do this. Great. But no, I don't look back and I'm like, oh, I went back and forth with Indiana fan. I'm like, man, I can give you losses that sting more than that one.
Yeah.
Starting with St. Peter's.
Yeah.
Starting with Marquette and Dwayne Wade in 03. Like, I can give you off the top of my head games that hurt more than that. Not only in the tournament, but regular season losses. There was the Isaac Humphrey slamming the ball, technical foul game against A&M.
Yeah.
The crazy foul calls with Tyler Eulis and that team at Kansas. Like, I can. Yep. That's not even talking about VMI and Santa Barbara, whoever else Billy G lost to. To me, the Edgar Sosa shot from Louisville, where he banked in that 3-pointer from 30 feet, that hurt more than the Watford. Like, I can do this all day. But the point I was making is, look, I know life's short. Why should I care? Do things that make you happy. But I'm like, would Villanova bring Chris Jenkins back to replay that shot that won a national championship? Would Duke trot out Christian Laettner to replay his shot?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Would NC State bring back Wittenberg and Charles to replay that?
Mm-hmm.
The won championships, right? I'm like, but even at the Kentucky level, I mean, I don't know what Brandon Knight's up to, but I would not ask him to come back and replay that shot over Aaron Crabb.
Right.
Or get Aaron Harrison back to hit those shots, from the left-hand side. Like, I wouldn't see that happening. Or get our man Cameron to redo the shot against. Like, what are we doing here? But then I did think, you know what? There would be some things I would pay to see. Would I pay to see Tayshaun go through his 5-shot progression on the 3? I probably would pay to see that. That's what I tweeted out. Like, would I pay to see Jamal McGlure put some random person in a Duke shirt in the rack like he did Wojo? Yeah, I'd probably pay to see that. So they may be onto something there. But, like, are we going to bring Anthony Davis back to replay that block shot against North Carolina? No. Like, is Malik Monk going to come back and redo that, that 3-point shot where he was telling Cal he's going to shoot it, and Cal's like, you better hit it, and he hits it? Are we going to do that? I don't know. Indiana, it's such a weird situation for them.
Yeah.
And people are like, do you want to play them? I could take it or leave it.
Used to. I used to. Coming up, sounds like they were one of the rivals right there with Louisville. To me, it was Indiana, Louisville, Tennessee twice, and North Carolina. That was my 5. That and now, you couldn't have told me 20 years ago, however long it's been, that I would be mad if we played Indiana or not. But that's what it is.
And you have to think about it. Where I grew up in the city of Louisville, think about this. Honestly, from 1976 to 1987. That's 3 titles for Indiana, 2 for Louisville, 1 for Kentucky. All these Final Fours, like, and the way Louisville sits, of course, in Kentucky, bordering Louisville. I mean, I grew up college basketball. That was the mecca to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people will tell you, the Big East during that time and ACC, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, you've got 3 great programs at the top of their game. The undefeated Indiana team, and then Isaiah Thomas and his greatness. And honestly, Kentucky might have been number 3 during that stretch.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's a, don't get me wrong, I love my Cats, but during that stretch, they might have been the 3rd team.
Because what? 1 in 78, Final Four in 84, should have won it, but they
right.
Louisville won 2. Then they went to the Final Four in 83. Also,
83, yeah, and there's another Final Four they went to. Is that 82? Maybe it's 82. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Sure.
But my point is, between those 3 teams, that was a triangle of greatness.
Yeah.
At a very high level. And I think, honestly, the people that grew up, you kind of overlooked that because it was the peak when everything was great. It just really kind of didn't hit because Kentucky Louisville didn't play until 83.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of why people outside of our region don't think the Kentucky Louisville rivalry is as good as Duke in North Carolina. I would say it's better, more intense. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, back to Indiana. But I'm like, number one, it wasn't just Kentucky fans responding to that. Like, you got Purdue fans saying, okay, that's a little much. There's other fans like, come on, like, have some self-respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I told this IU fan, you're making it hard. When I rank my top programs all time, you know this, I still keep Indiana at number, is it 5 or 6? 6. And I said, people keep saying, like, you can't put it in, and I do, but then you do stuff like this, and I might have to switch out
Villanova or something.
Villanova or UConn.
Yeah,
might get your seat at the table,
Mm-hmm.
IU fans.
Mm-hmm.
I just, because I can't see any other fan base doing that for a game in December.
Because when the rival school, when 2 rival schools agree, like Purdue and Kentucky agree that, like, what are y'all doing? Like you said, Purdue people are like, it's like the two twins in Corbin that are probably going to go to Kentucky now. They just got eligible to play. They came from Michigan, and now they're in Corbin. And Kentucky, if the recruiting heads think Kentucky's going to flip them to Michigan, identical twin defensive lineman. But some Michigan podcast went and took a shot. Well, that's why y'all are going to go to the Liberty Bowl. Good luck, blah, blah, blah. And you had Ohio State and Michigan State people in the comments like, man, have some class, have some respect. When rivals are uniting, that lets you know you shouldn't have hit send on what you're saying. That's tell you all you need to know.
And honestly, IU fans, I think initially the big hubbub with the popcorn boxes and the display at Alumni Hall, I think, yeah, that's a lot of Kentucky fan rivalry. I get that. But now it's to the point, dog, y'all got to move on, man. Like, I mean, is Valpo reenacting the shot with Bryce Drew? Like, I mean, is that what we're doing now? Like, I don't know. It's weird because I'm like, you've got history.
Yeah.
Because all these IU fans, they're not talking about the Keith Smart or Calbert Chaney, still the Big Ten's all-time leading scorer, or Damon Bailey, or even the Kirk Haston team that went to the 0-2 finals. They don't talk about that. Yeah. Or Isaiah Thomas. Or they not thumping. Look, my thing was, if Indiana wants to thump their chest over the 2015 Cats and be like, we still the last undefeated team. Y'all didn't get it done. That to me is okay. That's fair game. But the Watford shot, like, I don't know any Kentucky fan the last decade that's been like, man, that really bums me out. It honestly doesn't. Of course, I was mad when it happened.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bother me like that. And I like I said, I can give examples postseason and regular season of shots that hurt more than that.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Absolutely right. One other thing, man, happened over the weekend. We had the award show for the BS3 Network, and a couple years ago, we brought home a consistent award for consistent podcast. We got nominated for like 4 this time. The podcast of the year, best sports podcast, most consistent podcast, and for having the best guest, where we had, we've been talking about Roy, had Roy on. Didn't win, but we got nominated for 4, and it was, I saw some of the YouTube stream, and
It's an honor to be nominated, but
yes, it
as
is.
Five Dog said, I never let a statue tell me how nice I am. So
That's right.
no, it's all good. We do it because we want to have fun. But congrats to the winners and everything like that. It is an honor to be nominated.
Yeah, well,
so I'll take it like that. I ain't gonna do like Eddie Murphy when he didn't win the Oscar and he left.
That's right. Hey, you're right with the Fife, man. We got, I'm just glad to be nominated, and not only nominated once, nominated 4 different times, so a bunch of different categories. So we doing what we do, man, and just having fun with it. And the nomination was some recognition. That was nice. So
yeah,
I think our guy Andre Jones won everything. He
kills it.
Yeah. So congratulations to him and Doc and all those other winners, like you said. Andre was so many. Man, he was even at a different award show. He wasn't even at this one, so he was getting awards up in your neck of the woods in Memphis with all the fam. So
he's doing that Mike Jack at the Grammys that year, 83, 84, whatever it was, with all the Grammys like that. Man.
Yeah, that's it. So congratulations. Appreciate the nominations, and we'll keep on doing what we doing, man. Trying to get good guests. We got football coming up, actual games about to happen.
Yeah.
Have other stuff to talk about besides coaches and schools acting silly.
The women's soccer team at UK kicked off the year. First dub on the books for Kentucky athletics for this school year. So another drive to top 10 Directors Cup finish.
That's it.
Because I like I got women's soccer, and I'm all cats everything, man.
Mm-hmm. I was talking about before you came on, Kenny Harrison just advanced to the finals in her hurdles event, and we friend of the show, and doing big things on the track front. We're seeing world records, and
it's a track school, man. So I did have a conversation with our man A. White, talking about, I guess on their Sunday show, should Stoops or Cal get a statue?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, please, for the love of God, can the game start? Look, this is what happens around my birthday. State fairs start going on, and then the sports debates, because baseball has drug on, and we just run out of stuff to be upset about. Like, there's a debate, I don't know if you saw it, who was better between John Wall and Tyler Eulis? And then somebody said John Wall was underrated or overrated. I'm sorry.
Justin Rowland
said, I'm like, I mean, okay, say he ain't your cup of tea, but he's underrated. Well, why? Because of these little things. That's why I tweeted out today. Anthony Davis only shot 3 for 20 from 3-point range. So maybe his year wasn't as good as we thought. Did you know that for his career, Jamal Mashburn had more turnovers than assists? Maybe he wasn't as good as we thought too. Like, what are we doing, man? Like, I remember that. Like, what are we doing?
Just nitpicking, man. Just sifting.
So
through.
I'm just like, can we please get to the real games? Because this always happens. Who's your favorite point guard under Cal. Like, I don't know, man. Like, my only thing is, it seems like we rate Andrew Harrison too low.
Yeah.
But that's just me. But I'm like, I don't know. We've had some really good ones. We've had some great ones.
Yeah.
So but the statue thing, and I'm like, there's not a statue of Rupp, is there? I don't think there is.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, he's got the arena, obviously, and I know Joe B has the statue on the bench outside of the lodge, but and on the football side, it's just Nate Northington to them, right? There's no other statues. So, but my whole thing was like, I don't think we do the statue thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but it becomes this football versus basketball thing. Is well, look what Stoops did. He won where he wasn't supposed to win, and I'm like, but you can still recognize when someone does a great job, even after the do. Like Roy Williams still needs his props for succeeding Dean Smith.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to do that. But I'm like, if you're going to do that, then we need something at the track fields for all the track stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Right? We need Coach Skinner to get something for what he's built, an absolute juggernaut at Kentucky. So I don't know, but I don't think we do statues. There's no Bear Bryant statue.
Nope.
And I don't know if I would call the Joe B thing a statue. That's more of a sculpture than like an out and out statue.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But that's just me. I mean, I just never saw Kentucky as being the statue kind of thing. Like, we're gonna make some T-shirts.
Absolutely.
But more than the statue, can we at least get some people's names in the rafters at Rupp?
That's
Man, don't open that kind of worms. We don't have the time for that. But to me, that's a thing too. We need to get that done.
It's way too many hurdles in front of that for some reason. I don't know.
and I don't even know what they do. We got some stuff at I'm saying Commonwealth, because still Kroger Field, which reminds me, the arena closest to you is Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Court or something like that. All those jokes they had about Kentucky being having a supermarket name. Well, look at that, how the turntables have turned. But I ain't got no jokes except to say turntables have turned, man.
Yeah, so hey, everybody getting money for that and getting and whoever can slap their name on it, it will, whatever it is, it's grocery stores, car parts, Napa Auto, whoever it is. It's going.
I mean, we've seen it, with the patches on people. Like, some of this stuff I've never heard of before. What are we doing?
Uh-huh.
Like, how has this company got enough money to get on the Yankees uniforms?
Right. Uh-huh.
I don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
Hey, and when the Lakers got that signed that thing with crypto, I was like, I don't know about advertising funny money. That don't sit right with me.
That's right. That's right. But here we are, man. And
the real game's going to start soon, because I can't. Would you take sophomore Tyler Ulis versus hypothetical sophomore John Wall? Bro, what? and look, I get what Justin was saying. There was a lot of things that John Wall left, little small things, but I'm like, but when he was great, he was so brilliant, it overshone that.
He was scintillating, as Dickie V likes to say.
Well, and people, I mean, I'm looking, I'm like, oh, that's right. He was SEC Player of the Year, consensus first team All-American. Like, I'm not making up how good he was.
Yeah. We saw
it. Then it's the people, you don't see what I'm. Okay, all right, yeah. Everybody else is con except you see that this person's no. Okay, I got you. Okay.
So it's like you said, the real game's almost here. Kentucky's not this weekend, but you get a little dose with some Navy, Notre Dame, and USC play somebody, and I think Vanderbilt plays Hawaii. There's a few games this Saturday to get the appetite a little wet. And
I'll
then,
watch.
It's better than nothing. So
Yep. And special birthday shout out to Michelle.
that's right. Another August, like you.
Hey, no holidays, but a lot of birthdays, man.
And so Michelle and Oscar Combs' 59th wedding anniversary to him and his lovely wife. So I saw him tweeting that out. So congratulations on that. So.
And today would have been Kobe's 45th birthday.
That's right.
And it's my stepson's birthday. He turns 20 today.
He's 20, so he's the 23rd. And my sister is 43 today. So August all over the place.
Yeah, he's finally old enough so I can reenact training day with him. I'm pretty excited about that.
I've been saying you tweet that out. Okay,
that's right. I told Kate. I said he old enough for me to, I'm gonna get me an '83, Monte Carlo. We gonna drive around. Don't tell your mother. I got the leather jacket. I'm ready to go, man.
That's it. It's time we go. Y'all look out.
Right.
It's coming.
That's right.
Stay tuned.
That's right.
Man, take it easy on that boy now.
He old enough, he adult, he ready.
That's right, he grown now. He grown.
That's right, because it's sexy.
Yeah, can't wait to see that because you do the Dusty Baker, you do your Denzel, so can't wait to see what you do with the young fella. With
yeah, we gonna get it together. But always good, man. Thanks, Gabrielle, for stopping by.
Absolutely.
And, we'll do it as we get closer to these games, man.
That's right.
Because please, Lord, let these games come. Because I can't be debating now. If you're looking for a small forward, oh my god! Like I can't get it, man. It's just like what are we doing here, man? Can't we just say both of those guys was great?
It's just too easy for them. So don't let them get your blood pressure up, man.
That's right.
Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll do it next week, like we always do.
We'll see y'all then. Tentatively got our guy David Davis. Hasn't been on in a long time. He was, played wide out for NC State and Baylor, and he can give us his thoughts on Devin Leary. We got a bunch of Wolfpack coming over here. Devin Leary, the running back, so we can get his thoughts on them since he watched them more closely than we did. So that'd be fun. And,
yeah.
And whatever else getting your blood pressure up between now and then. But man, appreciate everybody for another episode of Cast Talk Wednesday. Appreciate the BS3 Network. Appreciate TV. Appreciate Gabrielle Starr. We'll see everybody a week from tonight.
Yes, sir.